Buenos dias, or buenas tardes, whenever you happen to be viewing this video. I'm going to talk about Spanish 1, Unit 3. This is the final live session for Unit 3, and we also have, it's not a live session, but it'll be the final class session for Unit 3 for your testing and also before Thanksgiving break, which is coming up next week. So today, Thursday, the 16th of November, there's no live class on Adobe Connect, and I'm providing this video. You can test today and tomorrow, and also the Unit 3 review will be available to you as well starting today. Quick reminder, Duolingo, make sure you get your 300 XP. Make sure your progress is shared with me. You can email me to make sure, or you can check your score in Canvas to Duolingo. Go to grades in Canvas and you can search for Duolingo Unit 1, for example, right here. Duolingo Unit 1, and this student does not have the a grade in there, which means that the student did not share the progress with me or didn't get started. If you need information about sharing, go under Course Home in Canvas, and you will see quite a bit of information. There's a class code for Duolingo. There is how to set up a new Duolingo account if you don't have one, or if you have one, you need to share that still. You need to set that up, and that is a tutorial there. That's a YouTube video as well. You can find some information there. Of course, you can always email me to make sure that's shared. You can check in your Duolingo, if you check your account settings, it'll show you who you're shared with, because you can always change that. You can always take sharing off, and you can manage it that way. So you can always check, but feel free to email me and ask. You can message me on Canvas as well. Ask me if I can see your grade, especially if you are seeing zeros there. It may be that you shared with me recently, but I just don't know that you shared because it doesn't tell me. I get an email from time to time if a student shares, but I'm not able to see necessarily who it is. I think it only gives me the email address, so I may not be able to recognize that name. But if you let me know, that I can check, and then I can give you your credit, your points, of course. And this is a retroactive, so I'll go back to Unit 1 and 2 and fill it in for you, and of course we'll pick up your grade if you've had zeros in there. I could even update your Unit 1 and 2 grade. I just don't want this to go on very long here. I want you guys to have your Duolingo stuff in, especially now that we've gone to Unit 3 now. Okay, so for Unit 3 review, okay, this is in lieu of your test. Make sure you complete this on Canvas, not on Omega, not in the testing center. Your weekly quizzes and this unit review count for your test grade in Omega. Okay, your Omega grading system, I put those in there. Actually, I put them in manually. So your weekly quizzes and the unit review will go into the test grade calculation, and that's what I'll put in Omega. Okay, so Canvas handles the grading and also how many points things are worth and those things like that. So how do you get to your unit review? You go on to Canvas and you go under Spanish 1 Unit 3 Week 3 module, and you'll find the Unit 3 review there. There's only one item in there, and it's before Unit 4, and you'll find it. Okay, so that's worth 20 points in here. It's grayed out because I took the screenshot before it was available. It's due the 29th, so you have plenty of time to get this done. But it should be available starting today, the 16th. Unit 3 deadline is Sunday, December 3rd. at 11:59 p.m. All Unit 3 work, including this Unit 3 review, must be complete by the due date, Domingo 13 de diciembre, right? Sunday, December 3rd. You do have till 11:59 p.m., so practically midnight on that day. We also have this Thanksgiving break coming up, so you can log in. Canvas is available to you 24/7, even during breaks, even during the holidays. So, and during Christmas break, when you have when we're off, Unit 4 will still be available to you. You can just go ahead and get started on that. So, or get finished with Unit 4. You should be about done with it. But anyway, the holidays and the weekends don't matter with Canvas. We just make things available all the time. So you do have until December 3rd. No extensions will be given. I'm not going to give any extensions for Unit 3. I've been lenient with some of you, or some of you have had some issues or joined late. You kind of had to work things out and all that kind of stuff. But I will not be allowing students to make up any work for Unit 3. You guys you have plenty of time to get things done. In the extreme circumstances, I'll just handle that on a case-by-case basis. Talk to your facilitator. If you are experiencing a major emergency, you need to let me know and your facilitator immediately, or have your parents contact us immediately. So your facilitator, and also you may need to ask your facilitator to talk to your teachers for you. But for me, it's a simple email, and in Canvas messaging too. It's a great way to communicate. So please make sure you communicate. If you have a real major emergency, you need to tell me right away and not wait until after something happens, and then you go back and say, oh, well, I had this major emergency. I'm not going to accept that. You need to let me know if you have any real issues. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about today is your Unit 3 review by itself, as a whole. Words ending in ick and ickle become ico or ica in Spanish. These are words that are mostly adjectives, right? They're adjectives: logical, political, astronomical, critical, those kinds of words. That's all. Those are all adjectives. So they become ico or ica, and a lot of times they'll have an accent on them. So lógico, for example, is one thing that you can think of. Okay, it's a good example here. Lógico. So logical is lógico. Okay, lógico. But it can also be lógica. Okay. Our political is político or política. The political situation would be la situación política. You also have estoy en está with adjectives. Estoy en está are from the verb estar, which is the next point down here. Estar. This talks about how you're feeling or where you're located. Here's some examples of how you might be feeling: cansado or cansada, tired; enfermo, enferma, sick; ocupado, ocupada, busy. We also had words like bien, estoy bien, I'm doing well. So those are things that you can keep in mind. And they use estoy and está as far as we are concerned right now. Okay? The verb is estar, by the way. You can look at the word estar You can see that it's similar to the word status or state, and that's a clue to what it means. It means to be, but it's the sense of how you're feeling, where you're located. It's a condition, it's a state of being. Whereas ser, this is the next point here, ser is, it has to do with characterizations and identity. It's who you are, what kind of person you are, what kind of thing something is, what it looks like, where you're from, what something's made of. These are things that have to do with ser. It's who or what a person or something is. And estar is where you are or how you feel, what your state of being is. And sometimes you can use these with the same adjective and they mean different things. So an example would be listo. Listo. Estoy listo is I'm ready. Estoy listo, feminine is estoy lista. But if you were to say soy listo or soy lista for feminine, soy listo or soy lista, it means I am clever. It's a characterization. It's who you are, right? You are, so to speak, ready mentally all the time, which means you're clever. You're witty. You have your wits about you. You're kind of ready for any situation. But estoy listo is I am ready at the moment. So you see some changes there. Bien vestido is another example that you've had in your lessons. Bien vestido versus bien vestida, well dressed, right? So if Roberto is well dressed today, it's like just happens to be well dressed today. You would say está bien vestido hoy. Está bien vestido. Oh, he's well dressed. He looks well dressed. But if you were to say Roberto es bien vestido, he is a well-dressed person. You see how it makes a difference there. It's who he is. It's who he is. Okay, and the difference between está and esta. Está is the verb. Esta is called a demonstrative. It points something out. So está would mean he or she is. It can also mean you are in the formal singular. ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está, señor? How are you doing, sir? Okay, ¿cómo está? ¿Cómo está él? ¿Cómo está tu amigo? How is he? How is your friend? How's he doing? ¿Cómo está tu amiga? How's your friend? Female, feminine. ¿Cómo está tu amiga? All right? And with ser and estar, you can use como with either one, but it would have a different meaning to the question. If I were to ask you, ¿Cómo es tu amigo? That would mean, what kind of person is your friend? I'm asking about how he looks. What are his physical characteristics? And his personality. ¿Cómo es? What kind of person is he? But if I were to say, ¿Cómo está? It would mean, how's he? How is he doing today? Now, you may see esta without an accent sometimes, and that means a whole different thing. Esta means this. Esta casa, this house. Okay, ¿dónde está esta casa? Where is this house? All right, the forms of you. There's some different forms of you in Spanish. There's 3 of them. And this is good to think about because in English, this is a big difference here. In English, you do not have 3 different words for you. You have one, but what we use in English is context to tell us if it's singular or plural, etc. So let's talk about usted. Usted is the formal you. Okay, usted is formal. That is, if you're talking to somebody you would normally call by their last name, if you knew their last name. Would you call them Mr. or Mrs. so-and-so? If you would, use usted. Ustedes is just plural, and ustedes can be any group of people that you talk to directly. It doesn't have to be formal. Okay, ustedes is just you all, and that's it. In Latin America, there's no difference. So when it's plural, ustedes, it doesn't matter what group of people you're talking to. It's just two or more people. It doesn't matter how old they are, those kinds of things. It's just ustedes. In Spain, it's a little different, but in Latin America, and by Latin America, I mean countries in the Western Hemisphere that are Spanish speaking, like Mexico, Nicaragua, Peru. Even Brazil will be considered Latin America, right? Because it's part of the region, right? So South America, Central America will be considered Latin America, and the Caribbean, of course, as well. Okay, the other one is tú. Tú is, you haven't seen this as much in your lessons yet, but you will later. Tú is the familiar you, and it's also singular. Okay? So, usted and tú are both singular. Okay? It's just important to remember that. Usted and tú, that's a UD, by the way. Usted, that's the abbreviations for those two words. Usted and tú are singular. Ustedes is the only plural one. So, of course, as far as familiar and formal goes, it's all going to be ustedes. It doesn't matter. So, with tú and usted, with the singular, you have to keep in mind the differences with formal and familiar. How do you know when to use familiar? Would you call the person by their first name, or is it a family member or a pet? Okay, so you use tú. So your mom or your dad, your siblings, aunts and uncles, and things like that use tú. Grandparents, it depends on the culture. Some cultures, the grandparents they use usted with them. Okay, subject pronouns. Subject pronouns. So speaking of that, speaking of what we were just saying with you, usted, ustedes, and tú, these are actually, you will see these in the pronouns as well, because they are pronouns. Yo be the first person singular, it means I. Tú is second person singular, it means you. And usted is also second person singular, and it means you. So those two go together, second person singular, formal and informal. Él and ella are the third person singular pronouns, he and she. Nosotros is we, so now we have plural, so you can do a division here. Él and ella. Nosotros. So this is a dividing line between singular on this side and plural on that side. Nosotros is we, and ustedes is you guys, you all, right? So that's our other pronoun that we were just talking about. And ellos and ellas go together because it means they. In English, only has one word for that, they. But in Spanish, there's two. There's a masculine and a feminine. Just like él and ella, he and she, there's actually feminine and masculine for they. Now, the question is, what if it's a mixed group? And the answer is that you just use the masculine plural. Ellos. So you can have a group of women and one guy in that group, you would refer to them as ellos now. Okay? The same goes with nosotros. You can have nosotras, but only girls and women would say that. If you have a guy in there and he says it, then it would be nosotros, because he's the one guy at least, right? So generally you're going to see nosotros. Sometimes you can see nosotras as well. Okay. Boy and ba. This means go. I'm going is boy. And usually it's followed by a because there's another verb there or a location that you're going. So voy a comer. Voy a hacerlo. So boy generally has to be followed by a. And ba is he or she is going, and it can also mean you are going if it's with usted. Usted va. ¿A dónde va usted? Where are you going? Talking to somebody that you're showing respect to, right? So, and this brings us up to something else too that's very important. When you're using these pronouns, usted, él, and ella they actually have the same verb form. These three, they have the same verb form. So for those three, it would be va. Usted va, él va, ella va. Okay? So it's a little different because usted doesn't mean he or she. It means you, but it's not tú. Okay? So it's like you're showing a little respect there. It's like speaking to somebody using the third person. Would your majesty, talking to, referring to somebody in your third person. Okay. The same thing actually goes for ustedes, ellos, and ellas, which we'll look at later. Ustedes, ellos, ellas also takes the same ending in Spanish. Okay, so we have voy and va, and also generally it's going to be followed by the a in there. Va a hacerlo. Is he going to do that? Is she going to do that? Etc. Okay, some question words. ¿Dónde? ¿Dónde and cómo? ¿Dónde is where? ¿Dónde está? Since estar has to do with location. Where is somebody? If I'm asking where somebody is or where something is, I'm going to use estar. ¿Dónde está? Where is it? It can also mean where is he, or where is she, or where are you? All right, if it's usted, remember, usted, él, and ella have the same verb form. ¿Dónde está usted? Or ¿cómo está usted? Right? How are you? ¿Cómo está él? How is he? Now, you don't have to say the pronoun, but if you need to clarify, you can use the pronoun. ¿Cómo está ella? How is she doing? ¿Dónde está ella? Where is she? So if you want to clarify, you may use the pronoun, but in Spanish you don't have to use the pronoun. Here are some locations talking about donde, right? So that has to do with location. ¿Dónde está? And you had in your work for this unit, you had to talk about where things were located. Al lado means next to. Al lado, think of the words like lateral means by the side. Okay, by the side. Al lado. Encima is on top of something. Encima de la mesa, encima del escritorio. That's just right on top, on the surface of something. Detrás is behind. Delante means in front. Está detrás de la mesa, está detrás de la silla, etc. And delante is in front of. It's good to think of these things in pairs too. Detrás, delante. And here's a clue too. Anything with tras in Spanish has to do with behind. Has to do with the back somehow. It could be metaphorically or literally. Delante, something with delante. Adelante means ahead, something that's forward. Debajo means down. It means underneath, actually. Underneath. It's underneath. But I was saying the word bajo has the sense of being down. Okay? So debajo, that means down from. Okay? So it means under something or underneath. Its opposite would be encima de, right? Encima de. On top of, debajo would be underneath. So if you think of those in opposites, they can really help as well. Also, I would suggest using Quizlet. Quizlet would be a really great tool for you. Okay, so those are your major locations that you should know for the review for Unit 3. The next is saber. Keep in mind that saber is has a irregular yo form. It's the only yo form in the whole Spanish language that does not end in O or OY. It's really interesting. Saber is to know, and yo sé means I know. Yo sé. And everything else with saber is normal. So he knows would be sabe. Sabe. So you follow the general rules of the ER track in that case. Sabe. But for yo, it's yo sé. Yo sé. It's just the way it is. You just have to memorize that. Okay, that's about it, everybody. Muchas gracias a ustedes. Thank you, everybody. And please email me if you have any questions. Muchas gracias.